Hi. So raise your hand if this sounds familiar. You're talking to someone or you hear from someone who's on a healing journey, maybe with a therapist or a coach, or maybe they're supporting themselves and everything's going well. Progress is happening. They feel good. But then they have something happen with their boss or they go back home for the holidays. They see their parents and it seems like all of that progress just goes out the window. Or sometimes, like, I'll see posts that say, I thought I was so healed. I thought I was so together until I went to go see my parents. Well, by the end of this video, you'll know which one of the two things that's actually happening when people say they're experiencing that, or perhaps when you experience that. But first, my name is Erna, and I'm a transformational coach currently experiencing my own transformation. And what I do is I provide a roadmap for people who know that there's got to be more to life than this. In my coaching, I guide people through their own process, layer by layer, to become their own healer. Because if you can take control of your own ability to heal your stuff permanently, your life will change. I've been studying inner healing and manifestation specifically for over 20 years. I have walked this path. And I've experienced enough permanent changes in my own life to now I want to share with other people who are looking and who don't want to go through all of that guesswork. So today we're going to talk about what's actually happening when we revert or seem to lose progress and the difference between actual healing and managing our symptoms. So I had a client a few years ago, we'll call her Kimber, and she may have been in an 80s band with Aja, Shayna, and Jim. I'm going to use aliases for my client names to protect the brilliant. Kimber came to me. She'd been seeing a therapist for a while and things were going well. She was seeing good progress. She was happy with it. But she went home for the holidays and her mother made some comments that really upset her. And she flew into a rage, and she ended up having to go stay with other family members until she calmed down. And she shared with me, Erna, before I went home, I was so peaceful. I had it together. But as soon as she made that comment, I lost it. And it took me forever. It took me days to calm down and come back and say things that I wanted to say. And it's been months since then, and it was still, she said it still bothered her. It was still bothering me. She said, I know my mom. I know she says these things, and still it happened like that. And so first, I congratulated her for noticing that, you know what, this isn't a good environment for me to be in. Let me go stay somewhere else. And she took care of herself. I said, so I'm happy you were able to do that for yourself. And let's investigate to get to the source of that trigger so we can uproot it and you won't have to deal with that anymore. When we experience what feels like we reverted or had a setback in our healing journey, the first thing that could be happening is you're just in the middle of it. And you need to keep going and doing what you're doing. Whatever brought you to this point is what you continue to do to take you all the way. You've cleared out part of that wound, and so it's just a matter of going back and clearing the rest. I like to think of it like the move it an inch, move it a mile theory. If you can move something an inch, you can move it all the way. And the reason I say that is because no one has an endless amount of wounds. And I say this as someone who's had the privilege of supporting people with emotional neglect, severe developmental trauma, complex PTSD, insecure attachment, family dynamics like the family scapegoat or the golden child. I'm telling you, there is a bottom to your wounds. The second possibility is what I call symptom management. And that just means you've been managing the symptoms of your trauma, of your wounds, of your doubts, of your limiting beliefs all this time, holding them in place with your effort. And as soon as something happens that requires your attention on your efforts then decrease, and suddenly you spring a leak or revert. Managing symptoms requires your effort to both create and maintain the changes. So that means if you're not putting forth the effort, or if you for some reason stop putting forth the effort or decrease your effort, the change decreases as well, if that makes sense. I'm thinking about those old cartoons. It's like this stressful game of plug a leak, plug a hole, and you imagine like there's a cartoon character trying to keep a big balloon or a big inflatable pool or something from losing all its water. And so a leak pokes out and they put their finger in. And then another leak pokes out and they put another finger in. And before long, there's more leaks and more holes than they have fingers or tail or toes or nose to fill in the leaks. And any new stress that comes up, any change that happens in your circumstance, takes your attention away from the effort you're putting into maintaining your changes. That is stressful. We all want something that lasts, my friend. We all want something that we don't have to keep our eye on in order for it to work. Something that we can't ever lose. But instead of using our energy for our hobbies, for the people that we care about, for the things that inspire us, for anything that we want to put our attention on, we're using our bandwidth to set reminders and use techniques to hold up and to maintain changes from our wounds and from our traumas and from our limiting beliefs. Managing your symptoms versus healing is like the difference between taking a pain reliever for a broken foot rather than going in for the surgery and having the proper recovery time. It's the difference between putting a Band-Aid on a very deep wound, a very deep cut, versus going ahead and getting stitches. One is temporary and only partway works. The other one is long-term. The process is a little bit longer than putting on a Band-Aid, than taking a pain reliever, but you're not going to be maintaining it for a lifetime like you would with a pain reliever for a broken foot, because for starters, that foot's not going to be set properly. That's the difference. And notice I said Band-Aids and pain relievers. Both of those things are very useful. Band-Aids have been saving lives for generations. I'm not saying they're useless. I'm saying if you're in a position where you don't have access to something else, they're wonderful. But friend, we all get tired of Band-Aids at a point. We all get tired of holding things together on our own, by our own strength. And a lot of times, life actually demands that we're functioning at a pretty good level in multiple areas of life at the same time. So this is what I do with my clients. They'll come to me and they'll move through something really big. Maybe they're trying to learn how to set boundaries or make friends as an adult. They'll move through a belief, a limiting belief, like it's not safe to be the real me. And they'll clear that and they'll feel the difference with that. And they'll go out for the week or the 2 weeks. And when they report back, they'll say, Erna, nothing really changed. I feel different. My reactions to things are different. But, I tried to make a friend and it didn't work out, or I didn't quite have the courage to make a friend and nothing big happened, nothing big changed. And then I remind them, hey, being able to step out when you couldn't before, that's a big deal. That's a win. Or noticing that your reactions are different to things, are naturally different without you having to try, that's proof that you are making progress through this wound. But now, as tempting as it may seem, now isn't the time to start efforting the full change into place. Now is the time to turn back inward and go finish just clearing out what's there. Because now isn't the time to say, keep trying and eventually you'll get it. Because again, the goal isn't to manage. The goal is to transform. The goal is to have a new behavior in your subconscious, the same place where that current or that old behavior lives right now and it's happening and working and controlling you without you having to try. We want the new behavior, the new belief to be there. The same place where your breathing is controlled, your heartbeat, your digestion, automatic. No extra energy required on your part because it's a part of who you are. Well, maybe you're thinking, well, Erna, how can I tell the difference? How can I know if I'm actually healing or if I'm just managing my symptoms? Great question. Beautiful question. A simple way to find out is to just imagine. You can close your eyes or you can just think to yourself, what would happen if I dropped my efforts to hold up the changes that I'm experiencing right now? The changes that I've been working on, if I were to stop doing anything you have in place to help keep it up, what would that look like? Does that bring up anxiety for you or nervousness or a little bit of fear? If so, that's how you found it. Whatever falls away without you trying, that's what you were holding in place with your sweat. And whatever is still there, that's happening automatically, that's where you are right now, currently in your journey. I'm sharing that to shed light. And I'm not saying for you to drop your efforts, especially if you don't have another track to run on. I wouldn't encourage anyone to invite that level of instability into their lives. But what this can do is show you the contrast. It can show you the difference between where you currently are and sharpen the desire that you actually have. More on that in a minute. Guess what, friend? Inner work, it's supposed to work. There's supposed to be proof. There's supposed to be an effect that you can see and feel and experience. And the people who are around you, they're supposed to be able to notice, hey, you're different. You sound different. You feel different to be around. So, healing a trauma or a wound, that's not, or I'll say, it doesn't have to be a lifelong thing, a lifelong battle or journey. And that may, depending on what spaces you're in, that may or may not be popular, but I believe things are changing. So what can you do now? As I mentioned earlier, I'm not advising anyone to drop their efforts, to stop doing what you're doing to keep your behaviors in place. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a physician, and in this public space, you're not in my direct care. But what you can do is notice the desire. Notice the inspiration. Like I said, the contrast, the difference between where you currently are right now and what you desire. And say it out loud. Acknowledge it. If you want something different, if you want to experience more of a permanent experience in your healing journey, say that out loud. And say that to, whichever, God or the universe, whoever it is that you commune with, say it, own that, and signal to the universe. Let God know that you're ready for something different. And I promise you, the pieces that are supposed to move into your life will begin to reveal themselves. That might sound super woo-woo, but let me remind you, let me share with you, it's those woo-woo things, those beneath the surface things that have the biggest impact on our practical, above the surface lives. And if this video inspired you or touched you, or even if it angered you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're feeling comfortable enough, please share with me your experience with managing symptoms or your healing process. I'd love to hear it. Sometimes saying it out loud, either to yourself or to an audience, to people, acknowledging those things, being able to locate yourself where you are honestly. Again, it opens the door for the next puzzle piece to introduce itself and bring itself into your life. Thanks for watching.